West, and into Beleriand heads the traveller. It is a land cleaved in twain, the sea its divider. On either coast there are tribes who live apart from this world, people who stare, not to their neighbours on hill forts upon gentle plains, but outward, to the ocean, and up into the snowy peaks which surround them. To the west and the south, past the Durotriges, whose lands straddle the border of Beleriand and Albion, over vicious, wind-bitten moors and down to sea-whipped coasts and sun-coated pastures, live the reclusive Silurians, storing the produce of their land in stone cellars, chipping at seams of tin in the rocks, and invoking the gods atop forts built on piers of rock which stretch out to the azure sea. The Silurians gaze across the water. Among the thrashing waves ride horses of the sea, leather-sailed boats of wicker and tar from Armorica. These are the siblings of the Silurians. For these reclusive people, the sea is no barrier, but a highway to their cousins beyond the brine. To the north live the Ordovices and the Kornoi, two peoples who contrast in temperament as much as the land that they occupy contrasts in form. Nestled between majestic, snow-crowned mountains and rain-cloaked hills, in valleys of verdant, lush pasture and ancient forest, the battle-eager Ordovices and the passive Kornoi raise their families and flocks, looking once again to the oceans for contact with the world, turning their backs, like the mountains, on those who live in the east. Incessant warring and a constant offensive has begun to show the burden of its purchase. The Pritanoi have suffered from dire amounts of attrition, and their homelands to the southwest have begun to fall into disrepair. Wilderness has overcome the farms and hearths of the absent warriors, who have been living off of their conquests for years now. Our diplomat, Latimaros, arrives in northern Italy, where the local Gallic tribes are in conflict with the expanding Latins of the Roman Republic. These warlike Italians intrigue Latimaros, so he investigates. The cruel harshness of winter is balanced by another betrothal and another marriage. Baidagnos has heard the complaints of his noblemen, who have been pleased with their glorious accomplishments, but now grow anxious about the states of their homes and the well-being of their property. He accepts the necessity of peace and prepares to spend the spoils of war on improving the infrastructure of his new territory. Roman forces lay siege to a settlement in Cisalpine Gaul. Latimaros approaches the force and meets with the commanding consul. Walking through the Roman encampment was like entering a different world. Latimaros gawked in amazement at the richness and vibrance of the colours surrounding him. Scarlet fabric weaved into beautiful banners, emblazoned with the gilded sigil of a soaring eagle. 4 symbols, perhaps a language that he did not recognize, were stitched into the cloth. He moved past the banners that demarcated the entrance of the siege camp, watching curiously as olive-skinned men cooked stews and skinned rabbits as they gossiped around their campfires. It was all highly organized, regimented to a level thought inconceivable to Latimaros. How could men be corralled into place with such precision, like birds flying in formation? He saw Celts among these people, too, clad in their typical armaments, though often sporting strips of red cloth on their arms or over their chest, perhaps a means to distinguish themselves as the traitors that they were, since clearly they were mercenaries, paid fine coin to do battle against their own brethren. The legionary escorting him deposited his bewildered cargo at the entrance to a tent, gave a salute to the soldiers nearby, and departed. Latimaros was soon ushered inside, brought face to face with a beardless man eating a roasted chicken with his fingers. A timid-looking Gaul stood next to him, presumably a slave used for translation. "You stand before Caius Aurelius Cotta, consul of the Roman Senate and representative of the Republic. Speak your purpose here, barbarian, for my patience is limited." Latimaros folded his arms, studying this consul for a moment. He wore a white gown wrapped around his body in an odd fashion, with a purple strip of linen crossing over his torso. He must have been wealthy indeed. Latimaros had only seen purple clothes once before in his life, and that had been on a travelling merchant from Greece. I am Latimaros, son of Radus. I speak for the people of Albion, who have united under the rule of one tribe. We come offering rights of trade and exchange." "Is that so? Well, my congratulations, of course. Not that I expect much to come of it. I'll admit, I've never seen a Briton before. I suppose it's a testament to changing times that you've even managed to find your way here." "Ours is not an island to be trifled with any longer. You'll see many more of my kind in the years to come. That I assure you." Yes, very good. I'll be most pleased to see painted savages paying pretend at civilization." The sheer audacity of you even being in front of me makes me want to accept your terms. So, I suppose I will take your proposition to the Senate. The consul wiped his fingers on some tartan cloth next to him, gesturing for a soldier to bring him a scroll made from animal skins that was nearby. The soldier spread the scroll out, revealing a boggling image to Latimaros, an artistic scroll of unfamiliar shapes, dotted here and there with what looked like written labels. Forgive me, what is that?" This? Oh, it's a map, you silly barbarian. Have you not seen one of these before? It tells me what the nearby area looks like, and where the main settlements are. I want to buy it. Are you mad? What could you possibly offer me to make me want to give you this? Latimaros smiled and reached into his bag. By bribing this Roman general with coin, we secure not only trade rights with Rome, but map information as well. This means their territory is revealed to us, which will be useful if we ever decide to invade. Back home, I dispatched 2 spies to the north to scout out the next region for conquest. We find a hostile warband. They're called Dacians, but I think this is probably a bug, since they're a little bit far from home otherwise. Regardless, we find the settlement that we're looking for. It's not very well defended. Baidagnos has concerns about the state of his army, since its total number has depleted by almost half since the spree of conquests began. I decide to spend this year consolidating control instead of expanding. In the autumn of 268, Baidagnos sets out north to subjugate the Brigantes that live in the hill fort of Alana. He crosses the river Humber unopposed. Our ability to attack the ambushes hidden in the western reaches of the province are severely hindered by the presence of a large mountain range that straddles the center of the region. Unwilling to suffer a winter in hostile territory, Baidagnos crosses back over the Humber until spring. An interesting mechanic that I learn of here is that there are mountain passes that are accessible in spring but can't be traversed during winter. I attempt to infiltrate the settlement with my spies, because doing so gives us a percentage chance of having the enemy gates opened for us without a need to shatter them with siege equipment. But both of my agents are slain in their efforts. Baidagnos heads north to lay siege to the hill fort. Dorgos is offered a wife by the name of I Am Killer. On some consideration, I think this is probably a bad idea. We replace one of our lost spies, and Baidagnos launches the assault on Alauna. He's now at the maximum rank that a general can reach, making him a formidable force on the battlefield. I employ our tried and true tactic of separating the heavy Tegeslogos into independent warbands to attack each flank of the settlement. I expect this battle to be fairly routine. The battle proceeds entirely in my favor, as we suffer minimal casualties on any of the flanks and consistently shatter the hopelessly outmatched enemy forces. The tactics of the Pritanoi continue to roll the opposition up like a Persian carpet, and soon the conflict comes to an end in a victory. We assert our control over the new territory, instilling a healthy fear of our tribal hierarchy in the new confederates. Light summer brings promising news, as our finances are now looking quite healthy. I notice a curious oddity. It seems that the Germanic Suebos, of all people, have the largest treasury in the game at the moment. I decide that now is as good a time as ever to finish our conquest of Albion, and the Pritanoi travel north into the snowy heights of Kaledonioi to subjugate the natives. The enemy keeps scampering away like a scared mouse, frustrating my attempts to engage them by fleeing whenever I line up parallel to their forces. I wish I had more cavalry. After about 10 more minutes of irritating maneuvering, the two lines finally engage as our cavalry manages to catch their own unawares with the speed of our chariots. With the foe locked in place, the Pritanoi finally manage to fall upon them. but I soon realize that the enemy heavy cavalry unit is going to smash my skirmisher horses like eggshells, and this is bad, very bad. I dispatch a unit of heavy infantry into the cavalry brawl whilst trying to decide what to do. I've used my Tegeslogos units to outflank the enemy, and our noble warriors make short work of these naked savages. It's some measure of catharsis, considering how badly the other end of the line is going. I try to encircle the enemy heavy cavalry with some of my spearmen, but the foot warriors are agonizingly slow, and I become impatient. Suddenly, one side of the enemy's battle line shatters abruptly, fleeing from the unstoppable Tegeslogos. This is our chance. The rest of the infantry break, but our cavalry isn't free to run them down. I decide to put an end to the horse-related problem once and for all. I'm alarmed by the number of casualties that we've taken in this fight. Nearly a quarter of our men have died. I've made a stupid mistake. By not leaving any units behind to garrison Alauna, it's going to revolt in the next season. I dispatched some cavalrymen to reinforce the garrison, but I don't have high hopes for the situation. I then have a stroke of luck. My cavalrymen are attacked by bandits and lose the combat. Their automatic retreat order puts them inside the settlement, ending the revolt. Convenient. The cold, inhospitable night has passed, though the spectre of frost still haunts the land, as the hearth is nursed back to life. Weakened by its nocturnal exertions, the hand covers the eyes, shielding them from the spears of the sun. The light spreads out his reach across the land. Rivers shimmer in his radiance, hills bask in newfound warmth, and everywhere life turns to greet the great Lord of the sky. A pretty sight, for sure, but for the Pritanoi, it is a call to action. For there is a foe which stalks the land, a foe who wears down even the strongest of warriors, and cares not to discern between women and children, the eternal enemy of hunger. Our kin have faced the eternal foe before. They know what to do. So the ox is put beneath the yoke, his snorting and huffing form drags the plough across the land, turning up turf behind. Into the furrows wheat and barley are sown, in time to be the bread and beer of our folk, and the fodder of our beasts. The shepherds drive their hardy flocks to the trusted pastures, while the spoils from the morning's breakfast are fed to the pigs. Little remains in our granaries, the beer runs shallow, and the meat is scarce. But beneath the soil lies seed, and in the hills roam fattening sheep. Hunger may yet be defeated.